Welcome to the Tuesday night Principal Chiropractic broadcast. I guess it's not a call anymore; it's a broadcast. We got a special guest tonight, Matt Alvord. He literally found out he was speaking today about 6:30, 7 o'clock this morning, and he was so gracious to say yes and never says no. So if you guys are on the 49 breaths in the morning, Matt always says yes because he's just a servant, and I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. Before we open up with Matt, let's remember that DE is July 27th through the 30th. The room block is going to be closed after July 3rd, so make sure you wrap everything up, get everything done before July 3rd, before the 4th of July weekend. I was just talking to Kat and Matt. I think the Canadian borders are well opened up, so we should be invaded at DE by a bunch of Canadians. So excited to see all our Canadian brothers and sisters coming back down for the first time in literally three and a half years now. So yes, get registered for DE. It'll be in Atlanta, July 23rd through or 27th through the 30th. Again, our speaker tonight, Matthew Alvord from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Been in practice 29 years. Got a wonderful son and an awesome CA. I wouldn't even say a CA. He's got just an awesome partner in his practice. He's one of less than 100. Think about this. There's over 70,000 chiropractors in the world, and less than 100 of them have a diplomat in philosophy. So the guy is deep, he's philosophical, and he is as principled as principle gets. So for no further ado, my good friend, Matt Alvord. Take it over, brother.
Hey guys, thanks so much for asking me again to speak. Yes, I do not say no. This morning, after our morning call, I thought I should check and see who's speaking. I looked and there's nobody listed up there. So literally, I clicked out of the DE page, and Andy had messaged me, "You want to speak tonight?" So I always say yes. Never to think about it. Just say yes. Do it. It's a privilege to do anything. So we're not ultimately saying yes to the phone call. We're not saying yes to the morning call. We're not saying yes to speak. We're saying yes to the universe. That's all it is. And so if we say no, we hesitate. That's a message way more than 100 affirmations. So when we put it out there one way or the other that we are willing, capable, and able, then that gets done without thinking about it. So I didn't know what I was going to speak tonight. Normally I would prepare something, and I specifically didn't want to prepare a whole lot. I want to really let my heart go, and I really want to just give you who I am. Andy mentioned Vicky, and I have to talk about Vicky. I can get a little emotional right away, but it's funny. Whenever I've spoken before, whether it's on calls or just recently in the meeting, I always think I'm going to mention Vicky, and I just, for some reason, the time's gone, and I just never mention her. So I want to spend a little time on that gal. She's so special to me, and I don't know what I'd do without her. She's gotten me through a lot. She's kind of like the female version of Dean for me. It's like my Sicilian connection, but I don't tell her enough. But boy, I tell you, I love you, girl, and she does so much for me. She does so much for chiropractic. It's funny. We heard Mary speak last night, or on Monday. Yeah, last night, Monday. Mike's gal, and I'm sure a lot of people think she's a chiropractor. Vicky and Mary seem to have a lot of the same energy. We actually have a DE little lanyard that literally says Dr. Vicky Fox, because somebody somewhere just assumed she was a chiropractor. So we're never throwing that one away. She'll be an honorary chiropractor. And she knows that she knows chiropractic. She knows chiropractic, I would say as much as I do, but she just can actually communicate it. So we joke about that in the office all the time. I'll tell somebody some elaborate explanation of something, and she'll kind of bite her tongue and then wait for me and to go check somebody else. And then she'll go, well, this is what Dr. Alvord meant. And they'll go, oh, and all of a sudden the lights come on with them. So I call her the chiropractor whisperer. She can take whatever convoluted, educated crap that can come out of me and makes it divine and meaningful, and changes lives with her heart and with what she has to say to people. She invites people into that office as if she's like this is their last chance. This is their last chance to do anything, because if they leave the office and they don't continue care with us, they're going to die. They're going to die partially. They could die tomorrow, but they'll live a lesser life. And so she lives with that immediacy, and she reminds me that every day. So I love you, girl. I'm so proud of my son. He just got his Eagle Scout, and he's graduating high school, and he's going to go into law enforcement. And he wants to be a police officer, and who knows where that'll take him. But I got a pretty tough kid. This kid's got his head on straight, and we wonder as parents sometimes where that comes from. So I hope he got some of it from me, because I love what I see in him. So we all live in this space where we're distracted, and we are always thinking in the future, and we're always thinking in the past. But this is all we have right now. All I have is you guys right here, right now. It's all that matters. The next moment will take care of itself. I'm really working at letting go of my educated brain, and maybe my next evolution is not even trying to try so hard, because at the end of the day, I just got to let go and let God, because that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And we're constantly reminded by all these things with people with illnesses and people who have passed on that time is short. Innate lives in the moment. Educated will talk itself into thinking we have all the time in the world. And that's probably our worst enemy. So we need to do everything we can right now. And at the same time, we don't want to burn ourselves out, because we can think we have to do everything right now and spin 15 plates. But I don't think that's the answer either. I think if Sid and others could take back some time, they probably would have spent a little bit more time with their families and potentially a little bit more balance. So there is that overall balance of just getting done what we have to do, listening to that voice, but also taking time to stay in the moment and enjoying life and being with our family and friends, and just breathing. I don't think anything that comes from our inner voice is ever going to run us into the ground. And I think sometimes I see different people where they're really, really pushing themselves hard, and I believe that's an educated thing to do. I've been fasting, and I haven't eaten since Sunday, and I don't plan to eat till Thursday. But it's a fun little exercise, and I usually don't do this long of a fast, which will be about 3 or 4 days this time. But almost invariably, within about a day of me fasting, I will develop a fever. And it happened last night, which was about a day or so out when I started. And I always love it, because it's not a fever that's uncomfortable. It's a fever that actually feels good. You know, when you got the certain symptoms and your quote unquote good symptoms or bad symptoms, it's a good fever, and it feels good. I feel really warm. And it tells me that my system is fighting something that couldn't do if I would have eaten in the meantime. So it's a good lesson for me to let my system just be still, to open up and start to process things differently. Kind of like, we process things differently when we're sleeping than when we're awake, but the immune system and other parts of the body get to overhaul and detoxify everything when we fast. And it's just a wonderful reminder for me. And you get to this wild place like now, where I haven't eaten in 2 days, and you kind of go, oh, eating's overrated. You really don't even need to eat. But I'm sure that the hunger pains will come back, and then they'll go away again. And so it's just a matter of riding that out and trusting my body, and it's a beautiful thing. I usually get a little emotional when I fast. I feel I never really think about it before I fast, but once I get into fasting, I get to this really grateful, humble place where I go, I'm just alive. This is just so wonderful. I'm alive. The immediacy of the moment of just being alive. And that fasting does that for me. I really love that. And is a good analogy between not being distracted with all the radio driving to the office, or having the TV on, or any number of things, a movie, or just music playing or whatever, just having complete silence. So I kind of see fasting as kind of like getting to that quiet place for my intelligence to speak to me. And I don't think it's an accident that in the Bible they talked about quite a bit fasting and praying. They usually went together. And so when I think of things like the process of what innate does and what my body goes through, I mean, it's only really chiropractors who think of processes in the body like fevers as being good, and actually look forward to them when they happen, knowing as long as I don't have a subluxation, my body's doing exactly what it needs to do. Because at the end of the day, it's a very strong tenet in philosophy. The chiropractors even need to be reminded of that. There is only function. There's no such thing as dysfunction. Dysfunction is just a name for the absence of function. There's only light. There is no darkness. So if you have a dimmed room where the lights have been turned down, the light that's left in that dim room doesn't trip you because you can't see as well. The light that's in there is doing everything it can, and it's working 100% for the light that's available. So we just need to add more. And I tell people in the office all the time, the problem isn't you. The problem is the absence of you. And when you start showing up, things start going away. But that being said, also chiropractic isn't about getting the sick well. It just isn't. Because there's too many people who don't get well, but they get connected. And that's the promise of chiropractic. Chiropractic is about being connected with your creator as a creation. And so it's the certainty of that relationship. And, we all have poignant stories where you could adjust somebody right before they pass away, but they're connected as they pass away. And we can't forget that death is part of life. It's not a failure. It's not an accident. It could result as an accident, but it's inevitability. It is the promise of life is death. And so we need to embrace it and realize it. And even if we feel great and we look great and we have no perceived illness or anything, we need to be reminded that death is out there. Death is out there, and that's normal, and that's healthy. And I think the illusion of of thinking we have all this extra time it shuts down the life we have, because we think death is like 40 years away, and we just never know, guys, do we? There's too many people who are here one day and not here the next day, and people who otherwise would seem healthy have an illness, and then conversely, you get other people where, boy, you don't think they're going to make 60 and they live to be 90. So I think that's by design. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think it's something for us to figure out. I think it's really just to be aware of it and just let it go. It's not for us. Chiropractic is always simpler. We're never adding anything ever to chiropractic. And it's always a refinement. And it's refined by fire. Nobody's ever refined by flowers. You never have an easy road to a better understanding. And to shed those husks, we're taking away. So there's always a simplicity going on. There's always like I said, a refinement. There's always simpler still. There's always a taking away. We start out with this lump of clay. I was reading a thing about Michelangelo, and he had taken this big piece of marble and he had crafted David out of it. And people in hindsight now have looked at this piece of marble and said, yeah, this marble is flawed. But somehow he saw this beautiful statue in there. And so just to keep chipping away at that, even when chiropractic was discovered, because it wasn't invented, and chiropractic doesn't evolve, regardless of what anybody says, it's refined. We have a piece of gold, as a gold nugget, this rough gold nugget that was discovered. And we just keep wiping the dirt away and burning off the impurities. And so things get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And so even though people like BJ said, talked about getting the sick well, people like Reggie refined that even further to say, well, at the end of the day, it's about leading people to the well. And the rest of it just simply isn't our job. And so that's where we can get more certain. The real reason why we should be refining ourselves, our understanding, our relationship with chiropractic and how we practice, is to allow our certainty to become stronger and stronger. There's the old adage of, fake it till you make it, but that only goes so far. And your physiology has to reflect that. If you're certain about something, you can feel it. It's visceral. And you can't fake that anyway. So the best thing to do is to address the cause of the certainty, because we are doctors of cause, aren't we? And as we do that, we start to we get a better understanding of who we are, what we do, what our calling is, what our mission is, and that's where our certainty comes from. It's not a mystery. So, the philosophy isn't something to just wax on about, to get a better appreciation for, to learn our history better. It's really to be better chiropractors, because if we don't understand that, people are dying out there, and that many more people will die without us. So it's so important for us to practice chiropractic and understand exactly what chiropractic is. And I've kind of let my foot off the gas pedal quite a bit when I used to be so hard on different docs, when I saw, lots of therapies and things getting done. But really the practical concern there is that, or the mindset maybe, is that, for everything that somebody's rubbing or prescribing or plugging somebody into, that's wasted time for their ability to talk about this innate intelligence, the potential interference for it, and how to remove that interference. And so to me, that's all distractions. And again, life is so short that we can't afford distractions. We really need to just stay focused on the one thing. BJ talked about get the big idea and all else follows. That's singular. That's not plural. There were not numerous ideas. He spent his life dealing with the biggest idea he knew of, and it's the biggest idea I can conceive of. The big banner in the meeting room says nothing is bigger than life. It does not say nothing is bigger than health. So it's great when people get better in the sense of symptoms, conditions, their health. We can see these tangible results sometimes, but quite honestly, we need to have confidence and instill confidence in the people around us that regardless of how they feel, when they don't have interference, they're better. I love the way Sid puts that when he just simply said, "You're better." In fact, you could say much more after that and screw that up. But at the end of the day, people just need to know that the last thing you want is this invisible anchor chain wrapped around your back, reducing your potential, reducing your ability to adapt, and not letting you be your best. I like to say that chiropractic definition of normal is just simply you without interference. Not anybody else, not even you an hour ago or yesterday, but you right now without interference to adapt to all the processes required and the coordination going on inside your body, and interacting with that with the rest of the world. Because life is the relationship between intelligence and matter, but health is the relationship between that matter that's expressed with life, with the environment. And we can't be dependent on what that health parameter is, because those variables are outside our control. Even when we adjust somebody, we're not adjusting anybody. What we're really doing is we're delivering a specific force in the right place, in the right direction, in the right time, in the right way. And if that is humbly accepted by that innate intelligence, it will be deemed useful. And then we will be able to come back and measure the effects of that interference being removed, because the body does it all. We don't move the bone. The illusion of the bone moving is just the body moving it as it's decided to move it. Because as you know, there are different times you tried to move something and it wouldn't move, and we had the idea that maybe we just had to push harder. We've all been there, but that's ego, that's educated, that's not chiropractic. Um, I do a lot of praying, and I pray a lot more nowadays. I think a combination of age, just different things that we see going on around us in our environment, in our society. This feeling of what we can't control versus what we can control. So I just concentrate what I can do. But one of the things I can do is I pray, and pray has a lot of luggage attached to it, kind of like the word God does. But at the end of the day, all the new agey people have to realize that prayer's been around a lot longer than they have. And prayer is just simply being focused with a positive intention to see something come about. And they measure all these things now, and there's these books on water talking about energy and whatnot, and putting blessings and whatnot on people and water and substances and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's just prayer. And so I pray, and I pray to God. That unfortunately gets confused sometimes with chiropractic as well. And just for a good perspective, innate intelligence is God, but God is not innate intelligence. And so innate intelligence is just an aspect of God. It's the inborn intelligence manifested from God. The atheists can appreciate that. They're not going to talk about God. They can start right from that intelligence. But any of us who believe in God, that goes from a black and white world to a color world really quick. I spend a lot of time doing things I never thought I would do. I'm praying rosaries now, and I pray 4 rosaries a day, because that's the completion of all the mysteries related to Christ. And whether anybody's Christian or not, one of the things that's really hit me is that when I go through these mysteries throughout the day, I've realized that this is basically the hero's journey. I forget the gentleman who used to talk about the hero's journey, but really it's what we do as chiropractors. It's what we do as people. And there was no better or stronger or more famous hero's journey than Jesus Christ. And without getting too religious per se, just realizing that just the exercise I do to connect with those mysteries, from Mary being told that she was going to have this Christ child, to actually having that child be persecuted and killed and then to rise from the dead. There's a real beautiful analogy that I see in that related to us. And I see that annunciation that Mary received from the Holy Spirit as listening to the inner voice. So one thing is to just know that we have this inner voice available to us at all times, and that it is speaking at all times. But whether or not we're listening is a different story. And she's the perfect example. In fact, she's often referred to as the perfect vessel. And what a great analogy to the DE movement in what we do, is trying to be this empty vessel for God, for the Christ within us, and manifesting that, and being humble enough to receive that message and to let that manifest in our life. Because she was willing to hear this, she was able to labor with this child and produce this child, knowing that this child would be killed at some point. But then also before that, when Christ had the agony in the garden, how many times do we hear something from the voice? Or we know we should do in our gut and we don't do because we're either afraid or angry about it, or we talk ourselves out of it, or we just simply don't think it can happen. We need to just really just pray in our own garden and trust that. I love the DE way. I love the DE monikers of being aware, humble, and obedient. Because if we are truly aware, humble, and obedient to that inner voice, we will be taken care of. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, we could be doing this on our deathbed and we'll get whatever we need to exactly when we need to. And the peace that comes from that is, for me, overwhelming. I really am, I'm really settled into my groove of who I am and what I need to be. I'm not interested in convincing anybody anymore, whether it's a chiropractor or whether it's somebody coming in the office. I literally want to just manifest this Christ-like person within me as much as possible. And if they feel that, great. If they hear that, great. And I would love them to actually do the things that I'm talking about. But we can't force people in an orientation room any more than we can manipulate a bone and expect to innate intelligence do anything else. It's not our job. It's just simply not our job. I have one job. I prime the pump. I prime the pump. I prime the pump. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when Darcy's on the call, she loves to say, "Work is fun. I love to work," and we say it virtually every time she's on. But I love to prime the pump. That's my job. All I do is prime the pump. I know where the well is. I know where the water comes from. I don't know how deep it is. I don't know how many people are going to come to that well once it finally comes to the surface, but it's not my job. I just keep priming the jump, priming the pump, and making it happen and having all the joy in the world. And I will just do it and do it and do it, because if I stop priming that pump, somebody is going to get thirsty and somebody's going to die. And so I just have peace in knowing doing my part and letting go of everything else. As a chiropractor, I think it's very healthy and to not anticipate what should come. It's just, we just need to let things go. And I know I keep saying that, but when we do that, there's so many analogies for it. One of them is dropping the keys. Can you imagine dropping the keys and trying to guide those keys down as if you're going to help them to the ground better than gravity can? And what's interesting when you drop the keys as well, it looks like the keys could be dropping sporadically, but they're not. They're dropping at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's a law. That's a law of gravity. And so when that happens, they're not dropping faster, and they're not dropping slower, and they're not accelerating faster or slower based off of what those keys weigh and how far from the ground they are. It's all taken care of. All we need to do is let go of those keys, and they will do whatever they need to do. So once we deliver that force and walk away, it's not our job. And once the person understands that, I think there's a certain kind of relief they have, because people are usually lied to in medical offices and therapy offices, because the educated brain loves to analyze stuff, whether it's right or wrong. You know, the educated brain that likes to do long vision, or likes to do long division, but the innate brain is all about the long vision. And so giving people that piece of saying, I say all the time in the office, you run the risk of feeling better when you're better. And you're allowed to feel whatever you want. Isn't that wonderful? You know, if you feel better, worse, or the same, that's your body processing. Dead people can't complain about any of the things that living people complain about. And so it's a gift to even have symptoms. We don't want people to suffer, but at the same time, we want people connected, and we want whatever that sensation to be, it to be totally normal and without interference. The irony is, if you have numbness, you could have interference causing that numbness, and that person will have a better experience than somebody who doesn't have interference. Because at the end of the day, pain nerve endings are supposed to transmit pain when there's something to transmit. And through open nerve channels, that means pain sometimes, and that pain will be absolutely normal if there's no interference in that system. And so relating these things to people all the time is important. I actually look forward to symptoms now, whereas before, back in the early part of my career, I used to kind of avoid them or scoff them off, and now everything's a great opportunity to educate. There are no taboo subjects in chiropractic. There's nothing we can't talk about. Everything gets funneled through the philosophy. We can talk about therapy if you want. We can talk about drugs if you want. We can talk about your big toe that's hurting that you want me to pull on. Happy to tell you about it, because I'm going to just pull it right back into what you need to know and what that toe pain is all about in perspective, without treating a thing, without anticipating a thing, other than a better version of you for you. Again, there's no such thing as dysfunction. There's only function. The body never screws up ever. There's either not enough intelligence because of interference to the system, or the matter that's being worked through for the moment has limitations. And so people need to know these things. It's very important, because these aren't things that we come up with. We're just relaying these things. I like to tell people, if I could patent the philosophy, I would have done it a long time ago. It could have made a fortune. But these aren't my ideas. They belong to the ether. They belong to the creator, who had these principles laid out for us well before 1895. And so it's just such an honor to be part of it. It's an honor to be a chiropractor. It's an honor to be in the community. It's an honor to actually, quite honestly, experience the resistance we get from the outside in world. Because as Sisyphus used to always say, if you aren't pissing somebody off, you're doing something wrong. As a chiropractor with an inside-out philosophy, if at some point we are not making somebody uncomfortable with an outside-in philosophy, we're doing something wrong. We're either not telling the truth completely, or we're watering it down somehow, or we're just not telling it at all. And it's very important that we get that message out and not worry about the outcome of how people might feel about that. Now, we don't want to go looking for trouble either, and God knows I did that enough times in my past. But I'm really concentrating now on just making sure everything's funneled through love. And even with my best foot forward, as Judson likes to say, sometimes love is a left hook. But also, I like to say that sometimes hate is a kiss on the cheek. And so sometimes if we're adored by the wrong people, that might feel good, but we're not necessarily on message or on point with what we need to do. So we can't worry about that. That's just another outcome, just like symptom relief or reduction in conditions, or anticipating if somebody's going to like us or not. That's not really our job. I like Reggie's quote about how he said, I've had more people not start up care with me to fill a large office. And at the same time, he had a big practice, but he turned away a lot of people that a lot of lesser chiropractors would have done whatever they could to keep them on a table or in a chair or just inside their walls. And so, I mean, even when I say lesser chiropractor, I just mean somebody who's less of a chiropractor. At the end of the day, chiropractic and being a chiropractor means you're practicing chiropractic principles. And to the degree that we get distracted and do other things, we are a lesser chiropractor, myself included. If anything would distract me, and I tell you what, Vicki Fox is a fantastic person to have in my office, because she will call my shit out quicker than anybody. And she's absolutely right. Most of the time, I won't say all the time because I won't give her all that. But most of the time, she's absolutely right. And you know why it's so powerful? Because that girl is on fire for chiropractic. I will see messages come through my phone at 11:30 at night sometimes from new people who want to get in. And if she's up, she will contact them within 5 minutes. And I'll say, you don't have to return these messages at 11:30 at night. And she said, they want to get in. I want to make sure they don't call someone else, and I want to make sure that they know that we're here for them. And I tell you what, people like that. People have commented sometimes about how quickly Vicki gets back to them, because she really does treat this thing like it's life and death, because it actually is. And quite honestly, if there's anybody out there who doesn't think that chiropractic isn't life and death, you don't understand chiropractic. It's that simple. It's that simple. And you need to understand, and you're welcome to contact me or anybody else who's pretty steeped in this thing, to get yourself to the point where you understand the philosophy well enough to know that it is life and death. And anything else is just a rationalization. I think I've said pretty much what I can say for the night. I really appreciate being asked to do this. No hesitation, just responding to the call. Whenever I get any time to speak or be on the phone or on this call, or even in the morning, I always say yes. Got to say yes. Specifically those morning calls, I'll tell you what, I've got a new level now of not just making the call. but making sure that I'm on every single call every day. Because the irony is, if I start missing 1 or 2 calls, before you know it, I start dropping even more. So it is my goal to be on every single day. It is also my goal to be the first one on that call. I was joking with Mike on the call this morning and saying, you know, I was going to welcome into the room. I want to get the room prepared for everybody when they come in. I take it that seriously, in the sense that this is my announcement for the day. There are people that will call in, and you know, Andy will say something, and or Mindy will mention something about, hey, you know, we know you're out there. At least say your name. And I get it if people don't want to speak. God knows I've been nervous to speak at times, but just know that if you get on those calls, all you have to do is state who you are. And if it's just the next level of, first of all, getting on the call, but then just saying your name, and that makes you nervous, good. That's where your growth is. You know, as the way says, comfort sucks. And you should get uncomfortable. You should get nervous from time to time. And whatever level you're at, take it to that next level. I used to get on those calls and just say who I was, but I never offered to speak. And then I just finally said, I'm going to do it as much as I can. And Andy always knows I'm waiting in the wings if somebody doesn't speak up. But boy, what a missed opportunity. And, you know, what does that say for the day if we just get on a call and we're just quiet? And then when we go to our office, we're unlocking the door, like answering the call, or getting on the call, but then we wonder why people aren't walking in the door. So we need to go all the way. We need to, at some point, get on the call. We need to say who we are. We need to speak. We need to speak our truth, and that prepares us for the day. Another thing is it's one thing, you know, sometimes people will get on those calls after the call started, and I don't think they realize that they're not muted. So we're hearing all kinds of stuff there, but it's a distraction. And so, as I love to say, the early bird gets the worm, and the on-time bird gets to watch the early bird eat. And the on-time bird is just as hungry as the late bird. So I always think of that, you know, and there's different reasons why people are on early or on time or late. But I always think of that as, and I hear the people ringing into that call after 6 o'clock as people start to do the speaking affirmations, that I always think of that relationship. You want to be early. Early is on time. And I like being the first one on that call, where I hear that cheesy music. It means I'm already there, and I'm going to start welcoming that first person into that room for the day, just like I'm going to do when I go to the office, welcoming that first person into the office. I think that's all I got, Andy. And I love and appreciate you guys. And I just so adore the DE movement and what DE is about. And it's really changed me, and it keeps opening me up every day. Love you.
Hey, Matt, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. For some reason, I don't see myself, but hey, let's unpack a few things what you said. A lot. I wrote a lot of notes here. So, one, if you don't believe that chiropractic is life and death, you don't understand chiropractic. Reach out to somebody. Powerful and absolutely true, and something that I found that to be true when I went to DE for the first time. Thank you so much for sharing that. And open invitation for everybody on this line. If you're watching this 6 months from now, reach out to us and we'll discuss it, because I think we both experienced life and death situations that chiropractic influence. So thank you so much for that. Trusting our inner voice, first courting our inner voice, and then trusting what comes from that inner voice. Certainty. You can try to fake it till you make it, but the fact of the matter is that certainty can be refined or molded. I'm not exactly sure how you said it, but you know, like the iron ore or the gold is, you know, you can fire that up. And coming to DE is how I fired it up for me, and I'm sure that stokes the fire for you as well. But the fact that certainty is visceral, and you can't fake visceral, but you can create visceral. I mean, that to me, Very, very awesome, brother. That I thank you so much. Now I'm gonna have a hard time getting some sleep because I'll be thinking about this shit over and over at night. So, thank you so much, my brother, for sharing. Thank you, Vicky, for stoking this guy's fire and keeping him on fire. And everybody, again, um, we're just so excited that you're here. Get ready for DE 27th through the 30th of July. Love, appreciate you all. Get some great rest so we can go back and serve tomorrow. Love you all.
Thanks, Andy. Love you.